Welcome to another episode of Lightbulb Moments, episode number, I don't know, but we're getting pretty close to 200, and we're over 5 years of doing this forum, so it's wonderful. Thanks for spending your precious attention and time with us. We're glad you're with us, whether you're part of this session live, listening to the podcast, or viewing the YouTube. We're glad you're with us, and thank you. I want to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors. That would be Lightheart Sanders, as well as Qnity. So thanks to both of them for helping to make this forum possible. So last week, I got into a light bulb moment of my own that was really based upon meeting and being impacted by one octogenarian and two nanogenarians. I think I said that right, over 90-year-olds. So it was a very interesting episode. Get a chance to listen to it. Actually got quite emotional unexpectedly. But I think it was a conversation that I needed to have, and I think it's a conversation that we need to have about preserving generational wisdom. So speaking of wisdom, we do have I'm getting some feedback about my lighting. Let's make sure if we're good on the lighting here and the camera. All right, that's a little better. Okay, I'm getting some feedback in the chat here. So today, speaking of wisdom, we have a special guest of ours today, someone that I've known for a very, very long time. And her name is Karla Lopez-Martinez. And I am going to give her bio here. I could do my own bio without notes, but I've got some notes here to make sure I don't miss anything. She is owner of Gila Rut Salon. She's also one of our newest guides, which means that she provides either coaching and or advisory services. She has a remarkable journey, and I can attest to this, from cosmetology student to a dream with a successful salon owner and trusted industry. All right, so a journey from a cosmetology student with a dream to become a successful salon owner. She is a trusted industry mentor, and she offers valuable insights to anyone looking to grow their beauty business. Karla will share her perspective on current industry trends. She'll open up about the pivotal light bulb moment that shaped her path from colorist to educational director, mentor, and ultimately salon owner. Her seasoned experience wearing many hats throughout the industry gives her unique insights into what it really takes to build a thriving salon business. So this is for anybody that's either starting their career, considering salon ownership, or just looking to take your business to the next level. Karla's authentic approach to overcoming challenges will resonate with your journey. All right, Karla, let's bring you to the screen here and give you a mic. How are you this morning?
Hi, good morning. Buenos dias, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I think this might be my third visit in the years that you've had this podcast, and it's always such a fun time. Thank you for having me.
So do you have any $1 million light bulbs yet?
I don't think so. I think I'm due, Tom.
I think in the past you might have been a panelist, but I think this is the only episode where we selfishly
Possible.
full attention. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So Karla, you're up early today. Thank you for rising early. It is you're 2 hours behind us in Southern California, or you're based in the very southern part of California. So, and you've had a really interesting journey. So let's do a career trajectory here and give me opportunities to jump in if I need to. Okay, so take us back to when you were a student and how you got your first job. We'll go there first. Okay.
Yeah. So something I don't think you know about my story is I actually decided to be a salon owner because I wanted to be a business owner. So very young in junior high and high school, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I worked in my family's restaurant as a teenager. I think I started working around 14 years old. My parents would drive me on the weekends, and I would be in the restaurant helping the family business. And that opened up an window to what my journey could look like, right? I am an immigrant. I was born in Mexico, and I think from that lens, those glasses I was wearing then, I felt like I needed to create my own journey. I didn't feel like there was a lot of opportunity unless I created it. So once I, graduated from high school, I had a short stop in college, which did not feel like it was for me. And so I thought, okay, I want to be a business owner, but what kind of business? What kind of business do I want to own? And I looked at the beauty industry because it just looked fun. It looked creative and fun, and that it had so many branches and different ways that you could really grow that career. So I actually went to beauty school because I wanted to be a business owner, and my dream was to own a salon. So fast forward kind of to your question, I started as an assistant at Gila Rut. This has been my only home for almost, well, I've been here, I believe, 27 years since I started. And yeah, I've grown, worn many hats along the way, and it's been very fruitful.
You are correct. I didn't know some of this about your history. So, really, unlike many who went into cosmetology because they wanted to perform the craft or
Mhm.
whatever reason that drew them to it, you were drawn to it because you saw it as a viable way to become a business owner, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that definitely. And about 7 years into being, in the Gila Root team, again, I started as an assistant. I did the sweeping and the, cleaning of the towels and all of the things that assistants do. And then I moved into becoming an educator. That seemed very interesting to me, and also a way for me to perfect my own craft because you have to know what you're teaching. So you have to know it very well. And then from there, I, approached the owner then, which many of you know, Carrie Davis. She's been in the industry, of course, many, many years as well. And we had actually, let me back up a minute. When I interviewed into the position as an assistant, one of the questions is, what do you see for yourself over the next, 5 years, 10 years for your career? And I said, well, I want to own my own salon. And she usually shares that that's a typical answer that a lot of people will say that I want to own my own salon, I want to have my own business or, my own suite. And she said, okay, she didn't really think much of it, right? Because it was kind of a one-liner that a lot of people would drop. And yeah, 7 years into me being in the salon, I approached her and I said, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to make the jump. And I have the perfect vision of where this could be, which is actually now where our second location and where I am today in Chula Vista. As you said, in California, very, very southern part of California. I'm about a 10-minute drive from the border of Mexico. So I'm very south. And we've now have been here going on 19 years in this
Mm.
location.
So, a couple things I want to piggyback on here. So, yes, Carrie Davis, a dear friend, and I was actually a coach. I coached Carrie and her mother Carol for many years, so we have a very warm relationship, and she's a very special lady.
Yeah, she is.
So you go to Carrie and you say, "Okay, I'm now ready,"
Mhm.
and you talk about another location. So pick up from there.
Yeah, so now we started our second location, like I said, in our Chula Vista area, in a brand new community. We actually broke ground with the mall that where the location is now. So we are one of the only standing stores still at this mall. It's made many changes over the years. So I have, a long term, I feel like one of the seniors in the mall. And so that's been very fruitful. We are, I would say, the only luxury salon in the area.
Mm.
So interesting enough, when we were breaking ground, we had the windows and we had them boarded up with signs that we were coming. And we would get calls from people in the area that would be asking, when can I make my appointment? I'm ready. There's nothing out here. And so that was a very welcoming part of our journey. The community here was happy and excited to have us. And then as we continued to grow this location, we eventually opened a third location. And that was about 45 minutes to where I am right now. So north in the area. So at that point, we had three locations and I want to say about 125 employees
Mhm.
between.
Yeah. Let me go from past to present. So those three locations, one of them is right in San Diego. It's Hillcrest, right? I mean, I'm kind of going back.
Mhm.
And the one that you're in now is called what again?
It's Otay Ranch or Chula Vista. The Chula Vista community, the actual area is called Otay Ranch, but it's the city of Chula Vista. And it's, I'm going to say 20 minutes away from our flagship location, which you just mentioned, our Hillcrest location. That location was opened almost 33 years ago. So our brand has been around for over 3 decades.
And then the third location, and I had to write this down, Otay, Otay, because
Right.
I've seen these names on some documents of yours through years
Yeah.
together, and I was just trying to connect the dot. And the third location again?
It's in the Torrey Hills, so that was the North County area of San Diego.
So San Diego and North and South. Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha. And then when you came in, so at that time it was only Hillcrest, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. In that location, I want to, when I started, I believe we had 7 chairs.
Yeah.
Then we grew it into 16 chairs. Then we grew it into the second location. Then we grew it into the third location over many years, of course. It wasn't immediate and it wasn't, right away. It was just, progressively, we saw that our team needed, that growth. And obviously, us as a brand, we were able to sustain it. And so we started expanding a little bit at a time.
Yeah, and for our listeners, I want to just pause and, part of the direction that I don't necessarily take these conversations into a direction, but there is some themes that I want to draw out that reflect common topics on light bulb moments, and one of them is succession planning. And I think it's a super interesting scenario here as
Mhm.
it relates to how three locations became two, how ownership. So I think that's instructional for the different ways using multi-location and ownership that someone can reach their dreams, whether it's in the case of Carrie, which is a full exit, or in
Mhm.
the case of Karla, so let's so keep going on this because take us through, pick up where you left off on the journey then.
Yeah, so we had 3 locations up to COVID. So up to 2020, our third location at that point had been opened for 7 years. So we were, growing it. We have always established each location as its own entity. So each location has its own P&L. It has its own, specific, let's say, lease. Even ownership is very specific. So even though we operate under one umbrella, which is Gila Rut, we have always kept each location as its own entity, which I believe has served us very well, especially to your point in the succession planning when Carrie was ready to move on to a next chapter and kind of, give up the salon life and allow the rest of us, the next generation, which is what I call us, of owners, the next generation to continue on with the legacy and the brand.
So I'm going to draw out something you just said about each a separate entity. And this is really kind of weird to give everybody an idea sometimes how my mind works. I was just thinking about this yesterday,
Mhm.
just for some random reason that as a general rule, multi-location, it certainly works to put all locations in one company. But the more I work in succession planning, et cetera, the more belief I have that putting them into separate entities have a lot of benefits. And here, and I'll sorry if I'm going off track here,
No,
but it's it's easier to combine than it is to separate. I
yes,
mean, so in
absolutely.
other words, in the future, let's say you want to combine them into one company, it does become hard.
Mhm.
So anyway, I don't want to go in the weeds on this, but I really believe in that strategy. Makes a lot of sense and it has served you. So, all right,
Yeah.
going here.
So with that in mind, that we are in different entities, fast forward to about, well, Carrie and I have been partners since we opened this location. So for, the second and the third location we were partners in. And we did have to close our third location, as I mentioned. which we were able to move those employees from that location over to the two that we had still standing.
And that's Torrey Hills.
That is our Torrey Hills location, correct. It was the baby of the three. And the reason why I brought up the topic of there were separate entities is that that location being newer took a lot longer to get going and to get to a break-even point, to get to a profitable place. And with COVID, it was the most vulnerable. And so we moved very quickly to say, is this going to make it after COVID? Right. And even with the loans that were out government wise, we didn't really see a strong continuation for that location. And so we were able to stand alone, handle that location, and undo all of the doing in the connection to the Gila Rut brand because it was a standalone entity. And so we closed that location. We moved forth with the two locations that we currently have. And again, now the new evolution of how our brand continues forward is we have three owners. I myself have full ownership of the location I'm in, which is the Otay Ranch location I mentioned, open for almost 19 years. And then the flagship location is actually owned by two owners, Michael Hart and Nadia Martinez. They became owners about 8 months ago. So they're very, very fresh as owners, but in the industry a very long time. And they were both key employees. Michael is a manager, had been a manager since he started with us. And interesting enough, Michael's journey is also very interesting because he worked at all of our locations when he came to work for us. So he worked with me in our Chula Vista location. He worked in the Torrey Hills, which we eventually had to close. And then he worked in the Hillcrest location. So it was a natural transition for Carrie to pick some of the leading, people in that location to become then the next generation to continue the legacy. Nadia is an employee. She's been with us as a employee, now owner, for over 20 years. So again, a very key employee. She is on the floor still, so she's full-time on the floor. And so right now they're both learning to wear the owner hat, and we collaborate very closely because we still see everything as a brand. So although we own both, separate ownership in each location, we make decisions together. We move forward with same branding and marketing and even our core values as a company. So really, I don't believe our employees see a big difference. I think the biggest difference is personality because of the communities that each of the, stores are in, but the inner workings of the company are very much aligned from that location to this location. So that's been I think to your point, an interesting way to structure an exit plan.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting and it works. And many, in fact, I've had conversations with many people very recently about this concept of, separating different locations, having different owners, but how they leverage and work together for education, for marketing, for branding, even though they're separate owners.
Yeah.
I love Michael and
Nadia.
Nadia. I actually have a picture of
Oh
them
yeah.
from
The film.
I
Yes.
hadn't seen either of them in years, but they graced us with their presence, and I'm so glad
Yeah.
to be able to see them and have a picture taken with them. I'm very
Yeah.
proud of them as owners. I remember, wasn't Nadia a colorist?
She was a hair cutter. She's still a hair cutter,
She was a cutter, not a colorist.
not a colorist.
Okay, so that's a good segue into another topic I want to get to. Is there anything else sort of on this journey? Because I think it takes us past, present, at least past and present. Now we want to talk about the future a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think we could move on to the future.
So one of the things that Gila Rut has done for many years is they've been a specialized salon,
Correct.
specialized cut and color, as opposed to generalist, where staff would do both. You have team members that do one or the other.
Yes.
And you had a top colorist there that I remember from a long time ago, and it's jogging my brain. I can't remember her name, but that's me going off on another tangent. Anyway, specialization is something that you're addressing right now.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about that, because now we're talking a little bit more about the future and how you evolve and some of the decisions that you made or you're going to make and some of your struggles and what have you. Let's
Correct.
talk about generalization versus specialization and what's next.
Yeah. So yeah, like you mentioned, in the history of our company, we have specialized majority of our years. And I say majority because I believe that in the very, very early time of the company, there was a generalized services, and then it moved quickly into specialized services. So I myself actually was on the floor for 15 years as a color specialist, and which loved it, and then obviously moved into more of the managing of the company. So I don't do clients currently. And over the last years, I have been in charge of hiring and interviewing, and I do for both. I did it for both locations. And one of the things that continued to come up as I was interviewing people is that there was a friction point when I would mention this is a specialized salon, and you would have to commit to, doing one of your passions, which is either cut or color. And I noticed that come up a lot more as a friction point and as a friction point. I also noticed in my exit interviews when people were deciding to move on from our company, and we're very lucky that we have a very strong retention rate with our team, and anywhere from obviously my newer people are in the 3-year mark to 20, 21 years in the company. 25, I believe, is our longest employee. And the exit interviews, part of what I would ask, what's making you make this decision? And a lot of times it involved, I want to be able to do both. I want to be able to do more. I want to be able to have a little more freedom. I'm feeling like it's needed. I need it for my career growth. And so I started observing what that was doing for us, right? So it was creating a smaller pool of new people coming in, and also retaining the people we already had for more opportunity. And so I started to lean into the possibility of what if we could evolve the company into a generalized company, like I know majority of salons operate. And I started to do a little bit of self-reflection because honestly, that's all I knew. That's been my entire career. I kind of say it to, I say that it's the only language I've spoken. So now I have to learn to speak a whole new language, and kind of live in a whole new, country, if you will. And I did interview some salon owners that I know that actually did the same move years ago. And I kind of got their input and, asked what happened, how did it go, how did you do it, how long did it take? I just kind of went down the list. And everyone was very encouraging and saying, this is the right thing. And one of my personal core values is continue to evolve and grow. And this is part of the evolution. Now, we are trying this out in our Chula Vista location. We have not created the entire company to be this way. I think that Michael and Nadia are, in their beginning journeys of ownership. They have a lot to kind of process still. And it's an opportunity for them to see if it's something that they could try in the future, but there's no confirmed plans of that for that location.
Okay. So another area that I want to discuss with you and share your level of comfort, because some of this is, your discretion in terms of privacy, whatever. But I know that you have your rent expense is high.
Mhm.
And we're deep in the issuance of the P&L study, where we go deep into all aspects, including rent and how it correlates to profitability, and it's a whole separate deep dive. But in short, your rent is high as a percent.
It is correct.
And when I spoke to you, which I think was 2 days ago, not yes, you
Yeah.
were meeting with your landlord.
Uh-huh.
And is that something you want to discuss today, or do you prefer?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So, you're absolutely right. Now, California is obviously an expensive state. There has been very few times in our career, at least at this location in the 19 years, where we have been at benchmark for rent. So we have always been over. It's not something new. but it's a lot higher right now because you probably know this, but depending on how the lease was agreed on every year, there's it goes up, and or depending on what's happening and how the lease was handled 10 years ago, because we signed 10-year leases. So I'm at the back end of our second 10-year lease. And so when I'm looking at my P&L, which I do very closely every single month, look at and make all the alignments, rent, I have two areas where I'm not aligned. One of us is our guest care or guest relations or front desk team, which is a little bit easier for me to handle and figure out scheduling and all those things. I feel like I have a much more opportunity to control it and really bring it down. It's only up by 2 points. So it's not outrageous, but it's something to work on. On the other hand, our P&L results are seeing that our rent is at double where I should be. So it is extreme, obviously, as you guys could imagine. And I'm just looking to collaborate with the leasing agent of I'm in a really big mall. This is a mall where they are have multiples around the country. So it's not an easy conversation. It's not an easy yes, but I'm committed to leveraging the amount of time we've been here. We, again, almost 2 decades in this mall, one of the founders of the mall. We have never defaulted on our rent. Like, there are a lot of things in our favor that I believe will really help me to leverage. I did have a conversation with them. It's not we don't have a full outcome yet, because obviously the leasing agent has to go back to his boss and figure out how this is going to work. And, all of the things that big corporations have to look into. But I did feel really hopeful because they were willing to have a conversation and even just look at all the scenarios, which I think is important. And the second thing is, he said, well, let's see what we can do. As in, like, there is something we can do, right? So it wasn't a no. It wasn't a so sad, too bad for you. It wasn't like, this is what you signed up for. It was none of that. I felt like they are open to collaboration. And the other thing that gives me hope and a feeling that we can get to a good outcome for both is that during COVID, obviously, if you guys remember, California was hit the worst in the sense of how long we were closed. We were closed at 3 separate times for a total of about 9 months over a 2-year span. And so every time we were on and then off and then on and then off, we would communicate with them, because obviously at one point when there's no income coming, we can't pay the bills, right? And obviously it was a very different scenario, but still, every time we reached out to them, they worked with us. They figured out a way to give us relief. They figured out a way to, can we add 1 more year and put it at the end of the lease? Like, there was always a workaround. And so that gives me hope that they will continue to consider that and how they did before. I think they learned a lot in that process too, of how they could be creative with the lease and work with the tenants. So it's to be continued. I don't have a full answer of how that's gonna roll out, but I do have a lot of hope that we can bring that down. And the real honesty is, we just can't continue this way. This cannot be for the next, 2 or 3 years that we have the lease. It's just not sustainable. And I am very open and transparent with them so that they understand where I'm at. And I think you know this about me, Tom, but I want a win-win outcome. I want to be able to say, we are sustainable, we are continuing to be tenants here, and we are leasing your space. You don't have an empty space. So let's work on a win-win so that we can both come out at top.
Yeah, this is a great topic, and Candace Gliato and myself are doing a program called Profit by Design, and we're using the data from the P&L study for the entire outline. And when we get to rent and the whole P&L, the benchmark and all that, the top performers, bottom, all the different things, is we look for solutions.
Yeah.
And there are solutions. And but if you don't take a shot with a landlord, you're never going to know. And I know you spent some time with Candace one-on-one, because she went through the same thing up in her Portland location, and she took a shot and it worked, landlord worked with her. So I think it's an area that her and I are going to go deeper into in some instructional videos in terms of breaking this down a little bit more.
That's great.
but I think you've got the essence of it, that you make it a win-win. You base upon the facts, be prepared to show the numbers,
Mhm.
do all the things so that your landlord doesn't have to wonder about things. I mean,
Correct.
you're making it's a pitch. You're making a case for some type of rent cooperation, we'll call it.
Exactly. And I will add one more thing, just personally. As I mentioned, we've always been over the benchmark, right? We've never been on benchmark for the years that we've been open. And I was very hesitant because in my mind, I had made a story that they wouldn't care. They were like, too bad you signed the lease. This is how it goes. And that they would be very black and white and maybe cold as a corporation. And I think that continuing to talk about it to other salon owners and hearing their stories and how they worked out. And I'm in one of our circle groups and I brought that question to that circle and they gave me great ideas and how to go about it. I think that that really gave me the courage and
Yeah.
and the outline to know what to bring to the table and not to just sit and say, well, I don't think they're going to do anything. I had decided for them versus giving them the opportunity to say yes, no, or here's what's available. And so that's been a great learning. And I did talk to Candace and she was also very helpful. And I think just knowing when other people are going through it and their success, whatever that is, small, big, or any, it allows them for me to think differently and then say it can be done. At least try it. Just try it. If it's a no, then you're at the same place you were before. But what if it's a yes, right? So there was definitely a little bit of that going into it.
All right, we're gonna use about 5 minutes to wrap up. A couple things here before we wrap up. I've got another area I want to explore with you, and that is that relates to coaching and spreading your wings. But before we get there, would you describe just briefly for our audience what a circle group is?
Yeah, definitely. So a circle group is a community, if you will, of other salon owners in our network at Qnity, where we have like businesses and we get together every 3 weeks on a Zoom call. It is organized. We have a lead that kind of walks us through the program. And a lot of it is us collaborating on things that are going really well in our business and also things that we have questions about, things that we sometimes as salon owners and being in our own four walls, we can only see what's inside the four walls and we don't know what is available outside of those. And so Circle, I think, gives you an opportunity to pick other people's brains that are just as smart and have a very similar business as what you're running. And it allows that new window to look through. So that's what the Circle is.
Yeah, I love the circle group, but we just started circle group. Actually, we tested a circle group for about a year and a half with some multi-location powerhouse owners. And then we created a program around it so everybody could enjoy that. So
Yeah.
I love circle groups. Jody Ohama does most of the facilitation in these groups. And having those peer conversations is something that is just so valuable.
Correct.
All right, so you're spreading your wings a little bit here. You are now working with Qnity clients directly in one-on-one services, and we're super thrilled and thankful that you're a slice of your time we get to take, and you get to benefit other businesses, through advisory and coaching services. Why is
Yeah.
it so important for you to do as a salon owner?
Yeah, I think that comes when I kind of think back at my journey as in this career. There were so many people that really impacted me with their wisdom and their experience. And I want to be able to do the same for others. And I feel like in coaching or in any type of mentoring, not only does it benefit the person receiving it, but on my end and selfishly, it benefits me too. It reminds me of the things that maybe I forgot to do or I've put a pause to. It really expands my own capability and it challenges me in a really good way. But really, I think the main core is being able to give back to elevate our industry. And I think that when we can share with others what we've learned and the experiences and the expertise, it really enriches us as well. So it's been a really fun journey to do that. And I think I shared earlier, I did it in the beginning of my career, teaching color to our newer talents in the salon. I've done it throughout in my, ownership. I mentor our educators in-house. And now being able to do it in a bigger scale with other salon owners across the country, it just fills my heart. I love it. It's really fun. Like I said, it keeps me on my toes, which is good. I like the challenge and I like the connection with other very top performers that are looking to continue to grow, and it's inspiring. So it's just been really fun.
Nice. Tell us about your family real quick and we'll wrap up,
Yeah,
okay?
sure, sure. Let's see. I have two kids. My husband and I have two kids. We have a little boy who is a soccer player. He loves everything about soccer. He's 12 years old, so he's starting middle school. We're into transition point in our family, becoming a teenager. And then I have a daughter who is 9, but she could be going on 19 because that girl is fire. I can't sometimes keep up with her. Um, Somehow in my heart, although I will never make her, I guess you could say, I kind of think she might be the next generation of this business. She is very interested in all things hair and makeup, and I don't necessarily nurture it. I just let her be. But in fact, I'm doing her hair later. She wants to have pink hair for the summer. So she is just they're both very, very fun kids, and my husband and I really work on instilling our heritage and our culture and our language, which is another piece of my heart that I want to be able to bring to our industry. And maybe one of these days I start coaching in Spanish, Tom. We got to build that bridge. But yeah, it's about continuing our legacy and our culture with my family, and really bringing our values in our spirit through our kids.
We've had this conversation about coaching and Spanish language, and you brought that up, and that really speaks to me and our team. So I certainly expect that that's a direction we're going to go. So,
I think so. I think it's needed. I think the industry can handle it. And I think that there's a big gap there that we could really help other salon owners in this community, the Spanish speaking community. So
all right.
soon, guys.
All right, everybody give Karla a virtual round of applause. Thanks for being such a great guest. Here's your $1 million light bulb. You'll
Love it.
own. It should be coming your way. Display it proudly. You're now part of the Brain Trust. We love you, Karla, and thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'll see you guys soon.